Learn to Win. Hope everyone is doing good. Today in our playlist, we are going to discuss about the next video regarding your auditing, the auditing risk identification and assessment, which is a very important and very interesting one, which we have to understand while we are doing the auditing. So, what is risk identification and what is risk assessment? The risk identification is the step about identifying risk to the organization's objectives. In other words, the risk identification is the process of listing potential project risk and their characteristics. And this step centers around assessing the risk identified in terms of their likelihood and the impact. The identification and the assessment of the material misstatement are at the core of every audit, particularly obtaining an understanding of the entity's system of internal control and assessing control risk. Performing an appropriate risk assessment enables the auditor to design and perform the responsive procedures. And the importance of here risk identification. The risk identification is a set of activities that deduct, describe and catalog all potential risk into assets and process that could have negatively impact business customers in terms of performance, quality and damage and loss or reputation. I repeat again, the risk identification is a set of activities that deduct, describe and catalog all potential risks to asset and process that could have negatively impact business outcomes in terms of performance, quality, damage and loss or reputation. The objective of the risk identification process is to identify a comprehensive list of risk and events that might impact the achievement of the organization strategic objectives, including weakness, opportunities, threats and sub-optimized results. So it is a very critical component of audit planning, and it allows auditors to understand that the factors that may impact the reliability of financial reporting. By systematically identifying and assessing the risk, auditors can prioritize their audit procedures, allocate resources effectively, and develop strategies to mitigate potential threats to the audit objectives. Sources of risk. The auditors may encounter various sources of risk during the audit process, including first one, inherent risk arising from the nature of the entity's operation, industry or economic environment. And inherent risk represents the susceptibility of financial statements of material misstatement. The factors such as complex transactions, violate markets and regulatory changes may increase inherent risk. And then next one is your control risk stemming from deficiencies in the entity's internal controls. Control risk reflects the risk that internal controls may fail to prevent or detect material misstatements in financial statements. So weakness in control environment, inadequate segregation of duties and ineffective monitoring may increase the control risk. Next one is your deduction risk arising from this risk that audit procedures may fail to deduct material misstatements in financial statements. Deductions risk depends on the effectiveness of the audit procedures and auditor's judgment. The factors such as your sampling error, insufficient evidence, and inappropriate audit procedures may increase the deduction risk. And then next one is your fraud risk. The fraud risk represents the risk of the material misstatement in financial statements due to fraudulent activities, including fraudulent financial reporting, misappropriation of assets. So the auditors must assess the risk of fraud by considering factors such as management integrity, internal control effectiveness, and fraud indicators. So this is the thing we have discussed regarding your risk identification and risk process which is involved in your auditing. In your previous slide, we have discussed enough about your origin, its definition, and then what is the meaning, what are the types of your auditing, and who is an internal control, who is going to do with your external control, and what is the difference between your auditing and your accounting, why the auditors need a particular qualification, how they are recognized, what are the standards we have to follow regarding your auditing, the principles which we have to follow. Everything we have discussed enough In your further slides, we are going to discuss more about your auditing. So please kindly keep in touch and watch my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much.